And then we want to set it equal to 0 so that way the computer knows it's a number.
It's a lesson the kids at the iCode summer camp in Southlake have aced.
Staying safe online is one of the most important things that you can do.
They know what's at stake.
Sensitive information such as your address, social security number.
And they know how to prevent it.
I just delete it or block them.
But when you ask if their schools have passed the exam,
do you think your school is prepared?
Honestly, I don't.
An incomplete is the best grade they're willing to give.
It's very easy for people to hack schools.
Most schools are on a low budget, so a lot of schools can't pay for all the stuff that protects them, and that's a problem.
A CBS 11 I-Team investigation found in the past 2 years, at least 67 school districts in Texas have suffered a cybersecurity breach.
We don't want any of our data getting out.
Last fall, Arlington ISD says a hacker used a substitute teacher's credentials for the library system to access the personal information of more than 2,000 students. Names, dates of birth, addresses were all taken.
We started tracing down the system.
The district superintendent of technology says the hacker turned out to be a student.
If it's happening from a mischief-related thing, I suppose that makes us feel a little better that there's not large gaps that countries could exploit.
But that's not the case for many schools. A growing number of attacks on Texas schools are coming from outside the country. In the past 2 years, 27 school districts have been hit with ransomware, a type of malicious software that locks up computers and files until a demanded payment is made. One district shared with the I-Team the demand message that appeared on the school's computers. It read, "All your files have been encrypted. You have to pay for the decryption in Bitcoin. The price depends on how fast you write us."
We were pretty sure it came from Russia.
2 years ago, Paris ISD was hit with a ransomware attack.
Every server that we had was affected.
That same day, less than 5 miles away, North Lamar ISD was also hit with an overseas cyber attack. A couple weeks later, Rockwell ISD, along with other districts, were hit.
We were fortunate that we had multiple copies of our backups.
Paris ISD's technology director says they were lucky as they disconnected their computers before the attack reached all their backup systems. But not every district has been so fortunate. Many attacks encrypted backup systems, while other districts simply did not have an adequate backup. Our investigation also found there are likely far more of these attacks on schools than we know about. Mesquite ISD and Fort Worth ISD never reported their ransomware attacks to the Texas Education Agency. And according to Texas law, they don't have to, as long as there was no evidence that student personal information was stolen during the attack. In fact, school districts don't have to tell anyone if that's the case. Cybersecurity expert Ben Singleton says this secrecy is making the problem worse.
If you don't disclose that information, we don't know about the attack. And we in the cybersecurity industry rely on these attacks to discover how they're getting in, how they're breaking into these networks, and what tools they're using so that we can properly defend against it.
Singleton says cyber criminals like to target schools' computer systems because they house thousands of valuable child identities. On the dark web, a child's identity is actually worth more than an adult's. Cyber criminals can use a kid's social security number to create a whole new identity, and it often goes undetected for years. Cyber criminals also target schools' computer systems because many are easy to hack.
They're looking to exploit the failure of these districts to defend their networks. And so, a school district that doesn't have adequate cyber defenses in place becomes a target.
But perhaps the biggest reason schools have become a popular target for ransomware attacks is because schools pay. When Port Neches Grove ISD was hit with a ransomware attack, the district paid the attacker $35,000 in Bitcoin. Sheldon ISD in the Houston area paid more than $200,000 in ransom, while Judson ISD said it had no choice but to pay more than $500,000 in ransom this summer or risk having sensitive information published. Meanwhile, other districts like Lancaster ISD, just outside Dallas, have declined to say if they paid after a ransomware attack.
Once you pay a ransom and once you show the world that you're a soft target who's willing to pay, more schools are going to get hit because of it.
But even when schools don't pay a ransom, these attacks are often costly. According to records obtained by the I-Team, Fort Worth ISD paid an IT company $94,000 last year to help the district recover from a ransomware attack. Athens ISD had to delay the start of the school year for a week last year, while the district worked to get its system back up and running after an attack. Singleton says until school districts invest in cybersecurity, these attacks will continue.
I think there's a false sense of security. I think that administrators don't fully understand how this all works. And so they may be getting some bad advice or their network administrator may be telling them that they're okay. But the fact is you need someone who's an expert in the field to really make that determination.
With more students back in the classroom and fewer doing virtual school this year, districts say cyber attacks should go down. But experts say that's not the case. The Center of Internet Safety that monitors emerging threats is projecting an 86% increase this year on cyber attacks on schools.
So our condition is if the user enters -1.
And all you have to do is ask one of these kids to know what that means.
There are many people in this world that will try to steal your information and use it for bad things.
My advice is to keep the information safe.
So through various state and local records, we were able to identify nearly 70 school districts here in Texas that have had a cybersecurity breach in the past 2 years. We have created an interactive map with information that we've uncovered about each and every one of these incidents. You can check out that map on our website at cbscfw.com. With the I-Team, Brian New, CBS 11 News.